Welcome back to another episode of Blerd Up Reviews, where we review the latest and greatest in movie, TV, and gaming. Of course, we are your host. I'm Killer Cam,
And I'm Monique.
and today we are back with a review for the final film in the Fear Street series, Part 3, 1666.
Yep.
Now.
Um, and we're sorry, guys. We know this is a little late, but we have a lot going on in our lives right now, so we had to take a real quick breaky break. But we back for this review, so we
Yeah.
appreciate you guys for hanging in there with us. But yeah, we did still want to get this review out to you guys, and talk about this whole Fear Street trilogy. I'm excited to actually jump into it.
Yeah, definitely. And the funny thing is, just to let you know how sometimes things go, we actually did review this already. But after second watch of that actual video, we were just like, this is not our best work. So if there was any doubts, we do actually pay attention to the format and how we do things. And if we don't feel something looks good or sounds good, we do keep it back. So we're going to redo it here again today, a little bit more focus. Hopefully, if you're a sub, you saw in the community tab that I did post that we were on a brief hiatus. So thank you for bearing with us. We are back to filming today. I'll be in the comments this weekend to try to get everything caught up. But we just truly appreciate your patience and kicking it with us. So before we jump into this review, thank you to everyone who likes and supports our channel. That is truly the best way to help us grow. Engaging in those comments, the views, all of that really helps the algorithm pick us up and get us out to a wider audience. We are on the road to 3,000 subscribers. So if you are new to the channel, you're digging the reaction reviews, please do us a favor, hit that like button. And if you want to stay up to date with our reactions, please make sure you hit the subscribe button. Therefore, you too can get in on the conversation.
Yep.
All right. Fear Street, Part 3, 1666. Before we start, spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. This review will have heavy spoilers. Pretty sure all of you by now have probably seen the trilogy, but just in case you haven't, you want to stop this video, go watch the movie, watch our other reviews, then come back and hear what we have to say.
Yep.
Alrighty. You want to do a synopsis?
Yeah. So, in this part three of the Fear Street trilogy, we finally get the origins of the whole Sarah Fear curse and the history behind why Shadyside and the people who live in Shadyside have such bad luck all the time. So we finally get that to come full circle, and as well, we get a little actually part two, I guess, of 1994, where it brings everything back to I was going to say present, but it's really not present. It's 1994. But it brings back up, all the characters we knew from 1994 to kind of deal with learning that history of what happened originally back in 1666. So,
Yeah. And I guess we'll do our normal format. We'll start with the likes, the dislikes, the MVP, and the final rating for
mhm,
this movie as well as the trilogy as a whole.
yep.
So, as far as likes, do you want to kick us off?
Sure. So I really liked the first hour of this movie, which was the whole 1666 part. I don't know if it's because I haven't seen like the witch yet, because or the Vivitch. What is it, Vitch or
It's the
Vivitch?
witch.
Yeah.
It's not the bitch. It's the witch.
It's got two little anyways. And I don't know if it's because I haven't seen that yet and I've really been meaning to watch it, but this was kind of like a little quick fill-in for me, and it kept my attention the whole way through
Mhm.
that first hour of the movie when they were showing it. Um to hear and learn that backstory of Sarah Fear, and actually, it's not really a curse that she brought on to Shady Side. It's actually another character who brought the curse on Shady Side. But it was really interesting how they told that story of how it all got blamed on her.
Mhm.
So I really enjoyed that 1666 part of this movie, because I felt like there was just a lot of things that we had been waiting for from part one and part two to finally, get explained. We did it. They did that in that part. So,
Yeah. I have to agree. I do like when, specifically in witchcraft movies, I do like when they're in this time and they're
Mhm.
showing like everything that's happened. Like we've seen this in Warlock, we've seen this in The Witch, which you have not seen, which
No.
is definitely one you should watch. Movies like The Crucible, like I really like to see how that all plays into it. Even with what's the video game Little Hope that we played,
Yeah.
I like
Mhm.
to see how that all plays out. Um, I thought it was really well acted. I like the fact that they reused the same actors from the previous two movies.
Mhm.
I think you and I were talking about this earlier. It kind of made it easier to connect to the characters because we already had that face familiarity.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, but I also think here's the flip side, which we'll get into a little bit later. I also think that there was a part of this story that was wasted, which we'll talk about a little bit
Okay.
more later. But as far as the likes, you know, I definitely thought this was the good part of the movie. Then when we flip over to part two of 1994, that's when I really got hyped. I really enjoyed that segment of it because it just kind of went, how do I want to say
Yeah.
it? Goo Goo Berserko.
Yeah.
I think is the
Yeah.
word I'm looking for.
Yeah. It got it got kind of Scooby Doo-ish,
Yeah,
actually. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Um, Now I'm actually kind of on the I mean, I really enjoyed the part 2 of 1994. The scenes in the mall, they were really fun, especially how, they had everything lit up with,
Hmm.
like, what is it?
The
The
black light
black
and
light and everything like that. I thought that was a really fun sequence. It did remind me of Scooby Doo a little bit,
hmm
trying to catch the bad guy. Um, the only thing I didn't like about that part, though, is at times it got quite cheesy.
hmm
And as well, I don't think this had a solid plan. I don't
absolutely not.
yeah.
Absolutely not. And I think that's why I liked it so much because there was so much chaos. Remember Gugu Berserko? There was
Yeah.
chaos happening
Yeah.
here, and you kind of really didn't know what was going to happen because it was set up in the part one of 1994 that ain't none of y'all characters off limits at this point.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
was expecting actually some people to die, which we'll get into later, but yeah, again, Gugu Berserko. That's what I'm calling. That's what I'm calling that portion of the movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, any additional likes? Any additional likes?
Um, no, I think I've pretty much explained everything that I liked about it.
Hmm.
Um, Again, really enjoyed that just first hour of the movie. Um, I'm not gonna say I didn't enjoy the second half. I was just more into
Sure.
that first half.
Interested.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. All right. Well, dislikes. You want to start? You want me to start?
Okay, I'll start because I want to start with this plan they had. So in the movie, we find out that this curse is actually not really caused by Sarah Fear. It's actually caused by Solomon Good, who is relative to Nick Good, which in 1994 is the sheriff of is he Shady Side Sheriff, I think.
Hmm.
So basically, we find out that Solomon Good has been in a pact, gotten to a pact with Satan, and as long as he sacrifices, or a person of his family sacrifices one person, he will continue to have good fortune, and Sunnyvale will continue to have good fortune, while Shady Side will not.
Hmm.
So their plan, their plan for this was to go to the mall. And when I say there, I'm sorry, I mean, oh, what is her name? Dina?
Dina, Josh,
Dina,
Siggy,
Josh, yeah, and Ziggy.
and newcomer, which I'm glad we got to see again. I forgot his name, but brother man that was in the jail,
Yeah, Martin. I think
Martin.
his name is
Yeah.
Martin. But their plan for this was to what is the word I'm looking for? Lure Nick Good, the sheriff, to the mall, and kill him.
Mm.
And that is the plan they went with. And so even when they were explaining this plan to the Martin character, because they really kind of picked him up last minute, was like, "Hey, we're gonna kill the sheriff. You want to come? Let me get my coat."
Yeah.
you know, I was like, "Ho, ho, ho! How are y'all going to explain away if you do kill the sheriff? How are you guys going to explain away just killing the sheriff? Like, y'all going to jail. Like, like, they did kind of quick and speedy explain all that, kind of run through that at the very end of this movie, which
Mhm.
I guess lucky for them. But to me, when they hatched this plan, I was like, that's it. Like, y'all going to jail. Y'all are setting out to kill the sheriff of a town. Like, yeah. So that was one thing that bothered me.
Any others?
Um, I didn't think this movie needed to be 2 hours.
It didn't. It
Yeah.
didn't. And that's part of my dislike. So again, the reason I liked Gugu Berserko Part 2 of 1994 was because there was parts in it that were really tense in terms of them having to trap the killers into the mall stores and pull the cage down, and they had to stay like really still to do it. It
Hmm.
reminded me of like that scene in Scream 2 where Gail Weathers is going through the sound booth and she's got to like stay still and make sure
Mm,
you can't see it. So that was stress ridden. And then I also liked the fact that they turned the killers on each other to try to
mm,
get rid of them. Now, at the end of the day, was it going to work now? But it was just a cool scene to see each individual killer that we've been introduced to kind of do their strut through the mall to get to the other killers and them just kind of get into a battle royale. I
mhm,
I did like the cleverness of, because they teased it in the previous two movies that the blood is what was drawing the killers to them, so they came up with a plan to put like blood and something else in super soakers and spray them, whatever.
yeah.
So I like that part, but the things that I did not like about this movie, part of it was the plan and way it was explained to Martin, like you said, but I
Yeah.
was willing to let that go because the sheriff did set him up for some shit. um I didn't like the curse.
Mhm.
I thought the curse was kind of mild because if you make a pact with Satan, I don't feel like it should just be that easy to name an innocent to be corrupted to carry out the destruction. I feel like Satan would be like, you got to get your hands dirty, like Mr. Good. So like I was more in favor of, well, this is gonna sound really bad, but I'm talking about from a cinematic perspective. I wanted Nick Good to be a little bit more savage, and I don't feel he was that savage.
Yeah, yeah, I can understand that. And but you have to admit though, some of the goods had to have gotten their hands dirty. We know Solomon Good got his hands dirty because he was the one who, in that gnarly scene in
Scene
this
with the
one where he
hand.
cut off Sarah Fier's hand. Yes.
Yeah, but
Um, and Nick Good and Nick Good got a little dirty himself because he knew why everything was happening at Camp Nightwing. He just
mhm.
didn't say anything. He was probably the reason as to why everything was actually happening at Camp Nightwing.
But
So,
see, but that was the weak sauce part of it. When I think about Jason and when I think about Sleepaway Camp, like they did their dirt. They got their
mhm.
hands dirty. This was more like an orchestration, which is just kind of like this is gonna sound really bad when I say it out loud. Like I could have easily been like, "Well, I'm gonna call Satan and I'm gonna take over the pack for him and get rid of Nick Good."
Yeah.
There was just things that could have been. There was things that could have been way more interesting than having him and his family be the perpetrators. I almost wish it was Sarah Fear actually who had it and just was a woman scorned, because back in the day when they're showing the witch story, it's basically the patriarchy looking at women, saying what they don't like about them, or using religion on people and just kind of like alienating them and using witchcraft as an excuse to get rid of them,
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
know? Which leads me to the thing I didn't like. That's when I figured out it was Solomon Good, because oh, he don't like that they're lesbians. There was a
uh,
part, Sarah Fear, she had a smart mouth. Like at one point she told like some dude, was it him that she told you need to go fuck a goat and they won't laugh at you or
oh
some shit like that?
no, I think that was like the town drunk guy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
basically she said there's some goats in the field who, who you can get with and they won't mock you for your shortcomings, and that was
Oh no,
funny.
that was actually another guy. Yeah.
That shit was funny.
That was the guy who actually accused Sarah and Hannah, which
Uh-huh.
is Samantha back then, but of being the witch.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So I mean it was like at that point where I figured out, okay, they're blaming this all on the lesbians.
Yeah.
So they're
I
not
don't
this isn't their curse.
I didn't see the connection though between Solomon not liking lesbians though. I think it was just him just mad because he got so down on his luck where his land wasn't doing anything. He lost his wife, he lost his
Yeah, but who's the
child.
easiest thing to scapegoat it on?
He didn't
Women.
scapegoat them though. He didn't
The
scapegoat them
town
though.
scapegoated them.
The town did, but Solomon Good didn't
He
until like
orchestrated that
until
shit.
Sarah
He had a
until
part of
Sarah.
it.
Well, no, because he showed up and he was like, "No, wait, like you guys."
No, no, that was an act.
Well, I don't think it was an act until Sarah found out his secret, and then he was like, "Yeah, she's in here. Here's Sarah," you know. But up until then, I really
Mm,
don't think he was trying to throw her up under the bus.
no, I feel like that's the part of the devil's pact. Like at the end of the day, she was innocent and she was the easiest scapegoat for a few reasons. Number one, she's a woman. Number two, she was a lesbian in a time where they thought that was already demonic and witchcrafty. Number three, like, I don't know why they didn't acknowledge this, but Sarah Fear and her brother was clearly black, Afro, Latino.
They did
So,
not at all.
so I mean, in my head, that's what led me to be like, well, it's him. It's got to be him. But the connection between Sheriff Good and all that stuff, I didn't know that stuff, but I'll say I kind of didn't care
Hmm.
because I was just kind of like, I figured it out. Once I saw it
Yeah.
and it was confirmed, I was like, I figured it out. Boo.
I'm actually the opposite. I did not figure out the whole good connection. Or like good was like they say in the movie, which I thought was really cheesy.
Good is
Good
evil.
is evil. I didn't know it was Solomon Good until they hit me with that twist.
Mm,
I'm opposite of you because I know you said that you saw that coming. I actually did not see it coming. And when it did, I was like, "Oh, snap. That's why in 78 and 90, oh, snap." So
hmm
that was actually one thing I did that surprised me, and I actually like that about the movie. That's one like I missed
See.
to saying earlier, but I was surprised when that part came up, to be honest.
See, when that happened, I almost wished it had have been just Sarah Fier's curse. I would have
Hmm.
just rather it been her, a woman scorn cursing for what was done to her. So, but neither here nor there. I mean, that was the part that just kind of was like, and we'll talk about it when we do the trilogy. But I say for dislikes,
Yeah.
that was probably it. And the
Well, I
low
have.
body count. I didn't feel
Yeah,
like there was a real like the other two. I don't think like there
like.
was any gruesome kills, and the body count was just kind of lightweight. But again, at the end of the day, you can kind of, I guess I can kind of let that go for the sake of it being the key movie explaining why the other two movies exist. So,
Hmm. I have one last dislike, and we'll actually probably talk a little bit more about it when we talk about the trilogy. But we have this scene in the mall where all the killers show up, and there's killers that I want to know more about. Like I
mhm,
see once, and I want to know more about them, but I know I'm not going to get that satisfaction, at least from this movie. So
mhm,
that was another thing. I know a couple of killers we knew before. Um, the killer from 78 and the killer that oh, I keep forgetting her name that she sings when
yeah,
you
with the
always
blade,
have money. Yeah. But there was other killers that showed up like the child one that I was like,
yeah,
"Oh, what the heck happened to him?"
yeah,
So again, that's something we'll talk about more when we get to the trilogy because I did find myself wanting to see more of their stories and what happened to them.
yeah. Um. All right. So if I guess at this point we'll just do this movie MVP and rating, and then we'll jump to the trilogy as a whole. Good.
Okay. Yeah.
Rating for this movie, I think I'm gonna give it a 6.5.
Okay. Yeah. I'm right there with you. 6.5.
Yeah, 6.5. If I have to give an MVP, my MVP for this movie is actually Siggy.
Okay.
Because once she confronted Sheriff Good, that was one of those things where it was just kind of like, what's she gonna do? How's she gonna do this?
Mhm.
And she's just like, tag, you're it, and puts the blood on him, which makes all the killers go after him. I feel like her arc was probably the one that I was most connected to, I guess I'll say.
Mhm. Mhm. My MVP goes to Martin, the guy that just showed up and was like, "All right, let me get my coat," because I feel like a lot of that stuff in the mall wouldn't have went down without him, like
Yeah.
the quick release and stuff like that. And just to him being a G, just to be like, all right, let me get my coat.
Yeah.
There was one point though, he was like, oh yeah, for real. But he still was like, all right, let's do this. So
Yeah.
that is my MVP of this movie.
All right. So now we get to this trilogy as a whole now. You want to do likes, dislikes again? Or I think we're pretty clear on the likes and dislikes. I think
Yeah.
maybe just the overall, where I'm at, the overall feeling of the trilogy, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
You want me to go
You go
first?
first. Yes, go
Okay.
first.
Again, this dual storyline of the witchcraft and the massacres. I don't think they really did a good job with that. Mainly because they gave us too much of what was happening up front. They revealed that this was like a witch's curse in the first movie. It was prevalent in the second movie. By the time we got to the third movie, I really don't honestly think I needed the first hour of the movie, which
Mm-hmm.
sucks because I really enjoyed it. I would have much rather, again, and I think I said it on the previous reviews, that if in part one they mentioned it, it didn't say shit else about it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
In part two, they mention it, and then we start getting the flashes,
Mm-hmm.
and then don't say shit else about it, and then unload the witchcraft story in the third movie. That would have been much more suspenseful for me. I probably wouldn't have figured out the third movie had they went that direction. It was almost like, oh shit. It was almost like when we were playing Little Hope and we got through that whole game with all the witchcraft and stuff, and at the end of the day the witchcraft story didn't even matter. It didn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? And I felt like this is how they did it. Now if they were going to go this route, who's done it really well? I think there are movies out there that's done this better, that's done
Okay.
this way better. The other thing that I don't like about this trilogy is the tone is so damn confusing sometimes. I just is again it's teetering between preteen, grown ass adult, preteen, grown ass adult. It was hard for me to find a way myself to relate into that story, which is why I
Mm-hmm.
said Siggy's character arc was probably the one that I related to the most, because we got to see her from a little girl up to a grown ass adult,
Yeah.
and how
Yeah.
she dealt with it. Um, that's my gripe with the trilogy. It was predictable in a sense. Now, don't get me wrong. The first two movies, those kills will go down in history. Those were some really good kills, but looking at it as a whole piece of work, Randy Meeks spoiled it when he gave you the rules of the trilogy. In part three, you're dealing with something that wasn't true to begin with, to end up to be the cause of that. So that's kind of what made it a little bit easier to figure out. I just wish it was a little bit more suspenseful.
I gotcha. I gotcha. I'm actually on the other end of that though. And I'm not sure why, but I felt like of course, the director of these three movies, Leia Yannick, I'm not sure if I'm saying her last name right, but I think that was a direction she went on purpose, just to give you little tidbits of what was going on in the first and second movie, and then made you want more for part three.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it did for me. We have in the first movie, like, okay, what the heck is going on? In the second movie, at the end, we're like, okay, they're about to solve this, so I'm not really sure what this third movie is going to be about. But we find that there's, a rock buried in the place of where Sarah Fier's body is supposed to be, or
Mm-hmm.
hand is supposed to be, or whatever. And then you're like, okay, what the fuck is really going on here? Like, who put that there? So I felt like there were good, in the first and second movie, like droplets or hints of what could be going on. And then you get the part three where it finally unveils everything. And again, I know you were different from me, because you
Yeah.
said you figured it out already in part three, what was going on. I was not. I was at the other end. I was like, what the fuck is going on? Like, and when it was revealed to be, Solomon Good and Nick Good, I was like, oh shit. that's a good twist to me, you know.
Yeah, those
Um,
weren't no droplets. I felt like they dropped boulders in the previous two movies. That's why.
um, the only thing that I probably disliked about this trilogy um was that I wanted to, and that could have been a different way that they went. Maybe in the continuation of this Fear Street type of thing, because I know they want to do more. We got an end credit scene that
Hmm.
hints to that. Maybe they should have focused, one or two movies on the witch story, and then
Oh yeah.
next movies could have been on the particular killers that we got in the witch story. Because again, I find myself wanting to know about those other killers. We got 1978 with the axe wielding killer.
Hmm.
Cool. I thought that was an awesome story to tell. That might even be my that no, that is the favorite out of my trilogy. The movie
Hmm.
that is the favorite out of this whole trilogy. I want to know what happened to everybody else. We saw a little bit of Cyrus Miller in 1666 where he took out everybody's eyes or all the kids' eyes. I was like, yo, that could have been a whole movie in itself
Yeah.
of how that happened. And I told you there was a little kid that showed up in the mall in 16 or part two of 1994, really 1666. But I want to know what happened to who put his name on the wall and why. What did he do to put what did he do to deserve to get it put his name on the wall, so I want to know those stories, and we may get those stories
Yeah.
in the future, because again they did hint to a sequel to this movie, to these movies at the end of 1666. But I want their own standalone movies so I can find out like what happened to what are their stories,
Hmm. I doubt we'll get them though. That's the sad part. And once you phrase it, like, I do agree with you. I think they front loaded the wrong stories.
Mhm, mhm.
They front loaded the wrong story, in terms of this trilogy. So I can definitely see that. Um, the trilogy as a whole, though, I'm gonna give it a solid 7. I'm not gonna act like this was a piece of trash and it was the worst watch. No, this shit was highly entertaining.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes, it
I
was.
I actually watched each movie twice, just to make sure I was getting the feel that I thought I was getting from it, and I did, and it was perfect for a Friday night, a six pack, and whatever I
Mhm.
decided to cook. I mean, so I'm not gonna completely just knock it down. No, I'm giving this a 7.
Yeah, yeah. I'll agree with you that on a 7, because initially going into these movies, and this goes back to what you were saying about the tone, but initially in these movies when I saw the trailer, I was like, these gonna be these, teeny bopper, Fear Street, like teeny bopper goosebumps type of movies, yada yada yada. But and I felt that way right
Hmm.
up into the end of part one, where I was like, oh shit, they put her head to a brick. I was like, I didn't even think she was gonna die. So when they started killing people in there, main characters, that's when I was like, oh, this is taking a turn for like one of my favorite horror movies. I'm
Yeah,
not gonna say 1994 was my favorite horror movie, but I mean
it has some
it
good kills. That
it
the last part
surprised
of
me.
that
Yeah.
movie was impactful. You
Yes.
know.
So that is one thing that I did love about this trilogy. You go into it thinking like this is going to be another Goosebumps,
Hmm.
but it's not at all, and it gives you those gory kills that is deserving of a horror movie. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. For that reason, I'm sticking with the 7. I'm a move so I can put it in the center. Nah. Give it a 7. Definitely a good time watch. Good time watch. No, don't think about it too much. Just enjoy it. But I'm gonna be very clear. Also, the only reason it's getting a 7 is because of those kills in the last two movies. The last two movies were the standouts of
First
this.
two, first two
Last
movies,
two.
last two.
Last two
Oh,
movies for
okay.
me were the standouts of this trilogy.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying the kills in the last two, and I was like, nobody really
No,
got killed
no,
in the last two.
no. The kills
No, but I
overall,
agree.
but the last two movies was what made the trilogy enjoyable to me.
Yes, in order 78, I will definitely watch that one again
That's number
several
one.
times. Yeah, 78, 1666, and 1994 in
Yeah,
that order.
agreed. Agreed. So yeah, we're gonna go with a 7. Wondering what you guys think about the Fear Street trilogy. Drop down in the comments and let us know. Until next time, we are your host. I'm Killer Cam.
And I'm Monique.
We'll see you on the next episode of Blerd Up Reacts.
Thanks, guys.